Welcome back to Protege, where we break down the invisible skills that actually accelerate your career. I'm Molly Jaggers. International Women's Day is coming up this Sunday, and every year my LinkedIn feed fills up with the same kind of posts: women supporting women, companies talking about equity, and panels about closing the gap. And while all that is happening, there's a gap forming that could set women back further than anything we've covered so far. And the data on it is brutal. Women adopt AI tools at 25% lower rates than men. And that's not coming from a small sample. That's from a Harvard Business School study of over 140,000 people across 18 countries. When women do use AI, the same tools, same output, same results, they're rated 13% less competent by their peers. Men using the same tools get a 6% penalty. Same behavior, double the punishment. If you don't use AI, you fall behind. If you do use AI, you're judged more harshly than the guy sitting next to you doing the exact same thing. That's not a skills gap, that's a double bind. And if that sounds familiar, if it feels like the assertiveness penalty or the likability tax or any of these other traps that we know are out there, it's because it is the same pattern. It's a new technology, but the same bias does exist. Now, before you tune out thinking this is another AI is coming for your job episode, it's not. I'm not here to scare you into learning to code, and I'm definitely not going to tell you to just lean in harder to technology. We all know how well that advice works. What I am going to do is walk you through the actual data so that you can see why that system is set up to fail you from both directions and give you a strategic play that works within the constraints women actually face. Because this one's personal for me. I've built my entire business on AI tools, not because someone told me to, because I taught myself, privately, strategically, and on my own terms. And the gap between what I can do now and what I can do a year ago is staggering. And I want that for you. But I also know it's not as simple as just start using ChatGPT. Not when the system punishes you for it, and not when the support isn't there. When people are encouraged to use AI, they're 50% more likely to actually adopt it. So the gap isn't about willingness or capability, it's about permission. It's about who gets told, yes, try this, and who gets left to figure it out alone. Workers with AI skills earn 56% more than their peers in the same roles without them. So we're not talking about a nice to have. We're talking about a wage premium that compounds every year you don't have it. And the career ladder, it's being structured right now around AI fluency. So the skills that got you promoted 5 years ago are being automated. The skills that'll get you promoted in 2 years look completely different. So if you're not building those skills now, you're not just standing still, you're actively falling behind. So let's start with why. Why are women hesitating? And why is that hesitation completely rational? Most people hear women use AI less and jump to women are less comfortable with technology. Well, that's lazy. And it's wrong. In fact, when researchers dug into why women use AI less, they found something more specific. Women are more likely to question whether using AI is ethical, whether it's considered cheating, whether it's the right thing to do, whether the environmental impact is worth it for a faster first draft. And honestly, those are reasonable concerns. AI does raise real ethical questions. But here's the problem. While women are thoughtfully weighing whether to use AI, men are just using it and getting rewarded for it and building the fluency that makes them look future ready in their next performance review. So it's really this permission problem. Women are waiting for someone to say, it's okay to use this, but men aren't asking for that permission. And the organizations that could close this gap by simply encouraging women equally, they're not doing it. Only 25% of all workers are getting any formal AI training at all. And the encouragement that does exist skews heavily so that 33% of entry level men are being encouraged by their managers to use AI versus only 21% of entry level women. And here's the thing, the women who are hesitant, they're not wrong to be cautious because the data shows they're actually being rational. Remember that 13% competence penalty? Same tools, same output, and the only variable is gender. This isn't new. In 2016, GitHub found that code written by women had a 78% approval rate when the author was anonymous. When the gender was revealed, it dropped to 62%. Same code, different name. So women aren't lacking confidence. They're accurately reading a system that punishes them for the same behavior it rewards in men. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's not a confidence problem. That's a rational response to a biased environment. So, if the system punishes you either way, then I say do it anyway. And here's why. The penalty for using AI is a perception problem, and perception can be managed. We're going to talk about exactly how in a few minutes, but the penalty for not using AI, that's a structural problem. It compounds. Every month you're not building fluency, the gap between you and the people who are gets wider. The perception penalty is something you can navigate around. The skills gap, though, that's something you can't catch up on later. And here's the part that matters most. When women do use AI, they're actually being more thoughtful about it. The same caution that slows adoption, the ethical questioning, the quality checking, the refusal to blindly trust the output, that's what makes women better AI users in practice. The research shows women are more critical evaluators of AI output. And that's not a weakness. That's exactly the judgment organizations need as AI scales. And ironically, women led companies are actually outpacing the pack on AI adoption. Fortune found that women CEOs run 18% of the most AI advanced companies, nearly double their representation on the Fortune 500. OpenAI has recruited 3 women who left CEO roles at major companies to join their executive team. So the same thoughtfulness that slows individual adoption, turns out it's exactly what makes AI leadership work at scale. So, yes, the system is unfair, it's a double bind, but sitting it out guarantees you lose. Playing strategically, though, means you navigate the penalty and build the skills. That's the only math that works. Now, here's where this connects to something bigger. We've talked on this show about the potential trap, where women get higher performance ratings but lower potential ratings. That gap explains up to 50% of promotion disparity, and potential is judged on subjective signals. So things like, does she seem future ready? Is she building the skills the org will need? Does she think beyond her current role? AI fluency is becoming one of those signals, maybe the biggest one. Think about what your manager sees when they're evaluating who's considered high potential. Everyone around you is talking about AI, building AI workflows, showing up to meetings with AI enhanced analysis, and you're not. So you don't get flagged as cautious, you get flagged as not future ready. And that goes straight into your potential rating. This is experience capital, the hard skills and proof points that make you promotable. AI fluency is becoming the critical piece of experience capital for the next 3 to 5 years. And it supercharges everything else we've been building toward. Building out architecture for your advocacy connections, making yourself sponsor worthy. Sponsors bet on people they believe will succeed at the next level. And right now, the next level means leading teams in an AI augmented organization. If you can demonstrate AI fluency, you're not just competent, you're a safer bet for any sponsor putting their reputation on the line for you. But this goes deeper than skills. There's this idea that's been floating around for years called the ambition gap. And the idea is that women just don't want leadership roles as much as men do. That the reason fewer women reach the top is because fewer women are trying. And Sheryl Sandberg's latest research with Lean In blew that right up. What they found is that when women receive the same stretch assignments, the same sponsorship, the same manager advocacy, the ambition gap disappears entirely at every level, entry through senior. Women want it just as badly. They just stop saying so when the system consistently signals it won't happen for them. Think about that. Ambition isn't a personality trait, it's a response to opportunity. Cut off the opportunity, and the expressed ambition dies. But the desire doesn't go away, it just goes underground. And AI training is part of that opportunity system now. When managers encourage women to use AI at the same rate they encourage men, the gap closes. This isn't women lacking ambition or interest or confidence. It's structural underinvestment. Period. Like we've been talking about here, you're caught in this double bind. If you don't use AI, you're not future ready. Use AI and you're penalized more harshly than your male peers. And your company probably isn't going to help. So, what's the strategic play? Well, that's exactly where we're going. And I'm not going to tell you to just learn AI. That's the lean in version of this conversation, and it's not enough. It's too vague. I'm also not going to tell you to wait for your company to create an AI training program. The data says they won't. McKinsey's latest Women in the Workplace report found that half of companies are actively deprioritizing women's advancement. Instead, here's a 3-move playbook that accounts for the double bind. Build the skill, position it strategically, and make it visible without triggering that penalty we talked about. The first, and I know this might sound counterintuitive, don't start by telling everyone you're using AI. Start by getting good at it privately. Get your sea legs about you, and then deploy it when you're ready. And I want to walk you through this as layers because Learn AI is way too vague to be useful. So think about it instead as a progression. Layer 1 is AI as a sounding board. And this is where everyone should start. You're not asking AI to do your work, you're using it to pressure test your thinking. Sabrina Ramonov, who sold her AI startup for 8 figures and now teaches AI skills to over 1 million people, she calls this the AI sparring partner approach. You tell AI about your role, your context, your goals, and then when you bring it a problem, its first response is, what are the questions you haven't asked? What are the blind spots? What's the counter argument? There's a line she swears by that I love. The top 1% of AI users don't use AI for answers, they use it to find questions. And that reframes the whole thing. You're not outsourcing your thinking, you're sharpening it. And layer 2 goes into reverse prompting. This is where it gets powerful. Instead of staring at a blank chat wondering what to type, you work naturally with AI until you get a result you love. And then you ask AI to reverse engineer what made it work. This output is exactly what I needed. What made this prompt effective? Turn it into a template I can reuse. So now you're building a personal library of proven prompts for your work. No prompt engineering course required. You're learning by doing and capturing what works. And you can also flip it. Give AI an example of great work that you have already done and ask it to figure out what prompts would have generated something similar. This also teaches AI how it thinks about your domain. Layer 3 is AI augmented decision making. Using AI to synthesize data, spot patterns you'd miss, and build connections. Not letting the AI decide for you, but using it to make your decisions sharper. This is where that leadership angle kicks in. You're the one with the judgment. AI is the one with the processing power. And together, you're operating at a level neither can reach alone. Layer 4 is workflow automation. This is where you are identifying the repetitive processes on your team and building AI assisted workflows. Even basic ones using tools like Zapier or no code platforms, workers are saving hours each day with AI tools like this. Think about what you'd do with a couple extra hours every day. That's not a productivity hack, that is a career accelerant. And layer 5, This one's on the horizon, but it is coming fast. And that is managing AI as a team member. Harvard Business Review just published research on agent managers. And these are leaders who oversee AI agents alongside human team members. And by 2028, nearly 40% of organizations expect to have AI agents functioning as team members. And the interesting part, the best agent managers aren't coming from engineering. They're coming from service delivery, customer operations, project management, roles where you already know how to coordinate complex work. So your future team will include AI. And the woman who understands how to lead hybrid human AI workflows will have a massive advantage. The point here is you don't have to master all these layers at once. Just start with the first one. Use AI as a sparring partner for 1 week. And that's it. Everything else builds from there. But building the skill is only half the equation because how you talk about it matters just as much as whether you're doing it. So here's how you navigate that double bind we talked about. The competence penalty kicks in when AI use is framed as using a tool to do your job. When it's framed as strategic thinking augmented by technology, that penalty shrinks. Think about how we already do this with every other tool. Nobody walks into a meeting and says, I used Excel to do this analysis. No, they say, I built a financial model that shows 3 scenarios. Nobody says, Google helped me find this. They say, I researched the competitive landscape and here's what I found. The tool is invisible. The thinking is what's visible. So apply that same principle to AI. Let me show you what this sounds like in practice. Instead of, I used ChatGPT to analyze this data, you say, I ran a multi scenario analysis comparing 3 different approaches. Here's where the risk concentrates, and here's my recommendation. Or instead of, I used AI to help me prep for this client meeting, then you say something like, I mapped the client's last 4 quarterly reports against industry trends to identify the 3 things they're most likely concerned about. Here's my proposed agenda. Or even something like this. Instead of, I used AI to draft these talking points, you say, I synthesized input from sales, product, and customer success to build a unified narrative for the board. Here's the through line. See the difference? In every case, the value is your strategic judgment. What to analyze, what matters, what to recommend, how to connect the dots. AI accelerated the work, but your thinking made it valuable. So lead with the thinking. This isn't about being dishonest. Everyone uses tools. The people who get promoted are the ones who talk about their judgment, not the tools that they used. And here's why this matters for the double bind specifically. That competence penalty I mentioned, it kicks in when people perceive you as relying on the tool. When they perceive you as exercising judgment that happen to be informed by better data, faster analysis, and broader inputs, that's not tool reliance, that's leadership. The framing isn't spin, it's accuracy. You are the one deciding what questions to ask, what data matters, and then what the recommendation should be. AI didn't do that. You did. So say so. All right. Once you've built the skill and you know how to frame it, make it visible strategically. First, volunteer for AI adjacent projects. When your team is evaluating AI tools, piloting new workflows, or building AI enhanced processes, raise your hand. Not to be the tech person, but to be the person who bridges AI capability to business outcomes. That positioning is gold for how leadership sees you. Second, share learnings, not just outputs. When you use AI to solve a problem, don't just present the solution. Share the thinking. Here's how I approached this. Here's what I tested. Here's what I learned about what works and what doesn't. Teaching positions you as the expert, not just the user, and it builds your reputation as someone who's ahead of the curve. Third, track your AI augmented wins. We talked before about creating a running record of the impact you've created. something the people who advocate for you can point to when your name comes up. Add your AI wins to it. Something like, I cut the team's weekly reporting time by 40% by building an AI assisted workflow. Or even, identified a cost savings opportunity by running a scenario analysis that would have taken 3 days manually. Those are the kind of concrete proof points that make someone willing to put their reputation on the line for you. When only 33% of women are using AI regularly, being proficient makes you disproportionately visible. You don't need to be the best at this. You just need to be in the game when most women aren't. And remember what we talked about with experience capital, those potential ratings that determine who gets the stretch assignment, the new team, the promotion. Every AI adjacent project you volunteer for, every workflow you build, every time you share what you've learned, that's not just visibility, that's evidence in your potential rating. It's this difference between your manager saying, yeah, she's a strong performer, and yeah, she's already operating at the next level. If you have a sponsor or someone you're building toward that relationship with, make it easy for them. When your name comes up in a room you're not in, your sponsor needs something specific to say, like, she built that AI workflow that cut our reporting in half. It's a sentence someone can repeat in a talent review. It's concrete enough to stick and impressive enough to shift a rating. So give them those proof points. AI wins are some of the most compelling ones you can hand them right now because so few people truly have them. And if you're listening as someone who leads or sponsors or develops talent at any level, I need you to hear this. The data paints different pictures depending on where women are in their careers. Remember that encouragement gap I mentioned, where it's 21% of women versus 33% of men? That's concentrated at the entry level. They haven't been told it's okay. For mid level women, the challenge shifts. They're more likely to be in roles that AI is already actively reshaping: project management, operations coordination, client facing analysis. And they need support transitioning from doing the work to leading the work with AI as a multiplier. For senior women, it's different again. They're often expected to lead AI transformation initiatives without having had the same runway to build fluency that other peers had. Whatever level you're operating at, the fix starts the same way. In your next one on one with a woman on your team, say this: have you experimented with AI for any of the work on your plate? I'd love to see what you come up with. That's it. That's a permission signal. And the data says it'll actually make a 50% or more difference in whether she'll adopt it. For mid level and senior level women, you can go even further. I want you to lead the AI pilot for this team. Or, I'm nominating you for that AI strategy workshop. Give them the stretch assignment, not just the encouragement. The ambition gap disappears when the support is equal. The AI gap closes when the encouragement is equal. This is one of the easiest, highest impact things you can do as a leader. So let's bring this home. If you're sitting there thinking, okay, but where do I actually start? Start with this first move. This week, open up ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever you prefer and whatever you have access to, and tell it who you are, your role, your company, what you're working on. Then give it something real, not a hypothetical, but something like a presentation you're actually building, a proposal that's due Friday, a conversation you've been putting off. And then say, ask me questions until you fully understand my situation, and then help me pressure test my approach. And then engage with it. Answer honestly, push back when its suggestions don't fit, and watch what happens when you treat it like a sharp colleague instead of a search engine. Do this on your own. You can do it privately. Don't announce it. Don't ask permission. And that's not hiding, that's strategy. You're building fluency on your own terms before anyone gets to form an opinion about it. So by the time it's visible, it's not, she's experimenting with AI. It's, oh, she's already ahead. And here's what I think is going to surprise you. The first time AI asks you a question you hadn't thought of, the first time it surfaces a blind spot in something you were about to present, you won't think this tool is useful. You'll think, oh, I am sharper than I was an hour ago. And that's the shift. That's what compounds. If you're sitting with these numbers and thinking about what to do with them, I go deeper on exactly this kind of strategic positioning each week in my newsletter. Tactical frameworks, specific plays, things to keep advancing your career. Link is going to be in the show notes. And remember, March 8th is International Women's Day, and every year we hear about the same gaps: the pay gap, the leadership gap, the confidence gap. And this year there's a new one, and it's compounding faster than any gap before it. Because AI fluency isn't just a skill, it's experience capital. It's sponsor worthiness. And it's the difference between being rated high performer and being rated high potential. We know the proof is out there that women adopt AI 25% less than men, but are penalized twice as harshly when they do. And the companies are not going to fix it. So fix it yourself. Build the fluency. Frame it as leadership and make it visible to the people who matter. And do it before the window closes. Because in 2 years, it won't be an unfair advantage, it'll be table stakes. Gaps don't close because companies post about them. They close because individual women make moves the system didn't plan for. And I think you already know what your next move is. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.